WeRiseNation.com.
This where the grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it, coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax, close your mouth and listen. We bout to hit you with this knowledge that you've been missing. Listen closely to the Grown Men Podcast. We Rise Nation is the station with the gift of gab. We dropping knowledge on these topics that you wanna hear. We on point with it, get the picture loud and clear. If you seek it, you will find what you looking for. And what you hear us, it'll leave you looking for some more. Open the door, let us in, we got a special vibe. Now close the door, lock us in, and enjoy the ride. We bout to talk about some things that make a lot of sense. And what we talking about, here sometimes we'll get intense. That's what we looking for, trying to spark a conversation. Join us live or you can listen on the We Rise Nation. This where the grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it, coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax, close your mouth and listen. We bout to hit you with this knowledge that you've been missing. This where the grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it, coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax.
Welcome back to another edition of the Grown Men Podcast. I am your host, BAN, and welcome back to the show. Another topic, Mark, I wanted to talk about is white liberal progressives, because they're in the news all the time, right? And people are always saying these white liberal progressives are the cause for everything that's going on. They're the reason that the Democratic Party has went so far left. But what do you say about it, Mark? Because I listen to a lot of people talking about it, but I haven't really formed an opinion one way or the other.
Well, no, I mean, for me, when people talk about, like, progressives or, far left and stuff, I mean, I always bring it back to, what exactly are the far left views? Because, far left, what they talk about is, Medicare for all. What they talk about is, higher minimum wage and better housing for folks and all that kind of stuff. And then what, a lot of people on the right particularly talk about, which is identity politics, or they talk about a lot of, the trans stuff.
Right.
And that's what mainstream media picks up on that, too, and stuff they so trans this, trans that. First of all, transsexual people are human beings, are they not?
Right.
I mean, that's the way I look at it. I mean, at the end of the day, if somebody changes their sex or whatever and stuff, I mean, that don't make them less human. They still human beings. So, I mean, to say that they deserve rights, I mean, what is so outlandish about that? But they sit there and use that to something else. I mean, especially with the Republican Party that sit there and use it and say, they're trying to make your kids trans and doing all these crazy sex acts, but yet you have a felon 47 who's in the White House, who, if he was not involved in doing the stuff that Jeffrey Epstein was doing, he certainly was best friends with him for a long time, at least more than 10 years, at least more than 15 years.
Right.
And not just him, I mean, we didn't really talk about the former Ice Barbie and her cross-dressing husband that likes to wear the fake boobies.
Exactly.
And we're getting into all that.
Exactly.
And a lot of stuff that these Republicans do on the low. Mike Johnson and all his stuff with his, marrying his daughter and stuff, making her go to, ceremonies and stuff, to have, purity rings and all this kind of, crazy stuff. Republicans do a whole lot of wild, creepy, weird sex stuff.
And don't forget about old Lindsey Graham down there on vacation in Florida with the bubble wand in his hand, right?
With the bubble one, I mean, by himself, mind you.
Yeah.
Coming up, approaching kids by himself. No family, because he don't have a family. Because why? He never been married to a woman.
Right.
So, and I mean, all that sort of stuff. But,
so, because in my opinion, and I'm stating opinion, I didn't say it was a fact. In my opinion, he's a gay man. I mean, he's gay. He just doesn't want to admit it. That's my opinion.
Your opinion and a lot of other people's opinions.
Yeah.
Including Felon 47. He makes a little, ribs. He poke ribs at him and stuff all the time about that type of stuff. Tim Scott's another one.
Yeah.
He had to go and get him a woman to marry and stuff for, appearances purposes and all. I mean, just, but, yeah. So set aside all of that I just sit there and just like ranted about. I would say like the like the like issue I take with like white progressives and stuff, because I tend to agree with like a lot of like what I'm saying, the stuff that they be saying about things is like as far as like the big money being in politics. Yeah, we need to get rid of that.
Yeah.
We need to invest more like in education, and what I'm saying, help. Do more about these student loan debts and all that kind of stuff. But it's like their biggest problem is, because the progressive is a wing of the Democratic Party.
Right.
Okay, that's just the way it is.
Right.
And what we know about the Democratic Party is their biggest voters, or their most, I'm wording this completely wrong. Excuse me for that. I apologize. But basically, black folks prop up the Democratic Party.
Right.
If Democrats don't get black votes and stuff, they wouldn't have a party. Basically,
right,
because they haven't won the white vote in a presidential election since the '60s.
Right.
It's been a long time for that.
Right.
So you need them. You need them black folks, those people of color, if you will, to come out and vote for them. And what the progressives kind of tend to do is like, try to be like, oh, we don't see color, play colorblind when it comes to certain kind of things. But at the same time, simultaneously, like, when there's somebody of color that's like, running, they put them through this purity test. And let me use Jasmine Crockett as an example, because I've seen like a lot of like, white progressive commentators, like, really go in hard on Jasmine Crockett about like how she wouldn't be the right person to be running in Congress, running in Texas for like that Senate seat and all that kind of stuff. Well, guess what? They've always had white candidates to run in Texas, and they all lost.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about Beto and all down the line? They haven't won a Senate seat in Texas since the 1980s,
right,
late 80s.
Right.
That's a very long time with the same people that was running, the same white man that was running. So, to say that Jasmine Crockett, wouldn't have been the right choice and all that stuff to be a senator, despite her experience. And also Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Like when she had all this experience and stuff like that, like something that was, I don't know. Until she had Tim Walz up there, then they liked Tim Walz because they like what he did with the free lunch and free breakfast for the kids, and he seemed to be a progressive guy and all that kind of stuff. He just was a terrible debater, unfortunately.
Right.
But nevertheless, any black candidate that sit there and run, be running for something, they sit there like, kind of pick through the grind and they need to pass some kind of purity test. And I think that's all BS. There's no such thing as a perfect candidate.
Well,
period.
When you talk about Kamala Harris, that's the thing we can touch off too for a quick minute, is that Kamala Harris wanted Shapiro out of Pennsylvania. But those strategists of the Democratic Party said, no, you take Walz. We're not too sure about taking Shapiro because, he's a Jew and everything that goes along with that. We don't know if that's going to be the right look. And like you said, Walz did all the things. Walz not a bad guy, right? He's one of them guys that you
I like Tim Walz.
Right. You'll drink a beer with him or, do some certain things. But when it comes down to getting down with it, like you said, in a debate, he can't win that. A guy, and even with a guy like JD Vance, who, is not the sharpest knife in the drawer, right? But he looked like the younger man and the man who had more on the ball in those debates. And that's what that's what they look at. They look at visually what that looked like. But, back to the progressives, you were saying.
No, just the fact is, like, they have to, like, understand and realize the fact that, like, you can't pretty much keep black out. You have to, like, acknowledge the fact is that, like, you need to get those black voters and stuff like that, because a lot of them always go off of, like, the reason why Kamala lost was because of the Gaza thing. And that was a big thing. I'm not going to sit there and, like, discredit it. I think a lot of people felt some kind of way, but at the same time and stuff, with Felon 47 getting in there. That wasn't, I mean, well, as proven, I mean, it's fact to it. There's no, like, you know what I'm saying, hearsay or nothing. I mean, you see what's happening in Gaza now.
Yeah.
What still continues to happen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, to sit there, like, you know, like, drag, you know what I'm saying, Kamala or anybody, you know, who had at one point or another may have took some APAC money or took a trip over to, like, you know what I'm saying, Israel, excuse me, and to drag them like that, I mean, it's just like, you know, was very unnecessary and it's counterproductive. I mean, that's the biggest problem. They do a lot of counterproductive things.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know what I'm saying, even like Bernie Sanders and stuff, who like, I supported twice when he ran for president. I mean, because I like a lot of stuff he was saying and doing and stuff, but his biggest problem was that he did not, you know what I'm saying, reach out to black people enough. He had Nina Turner with him, which was great. But, I mean, that wasn't enough. I mean, people need to hear him, you know what I'm saying, say certain things and stuff like that. I mean, instead of being so dismissive when it comes to identity politics, because it's all identity politics. Don't say identity politics when you're talking about black issues or Hispanic issues or, well, I mean, it's all identity because people identify with something.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, whiteness shouldn't be the default all the time. Like, okay, yeah, that's just normal. But we normalize that. So that's the white identity. That's why people sit there and will vote for a white man, because in our minds, that's what we was taught. That's the way it should be all the time. It got to be a white guy. And, I mean, you know what I'm saying? The white guy, the white male has been pretty much the biggest problem in this country since it ever came into existence.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, if you really want to break it down and look into it and stuff like that, if you really want to talk about who does the most mass shootings or who did the biggest mistakes and all that kind of stuff, look at all the white presidents that we have had and all that kind of thing. So, I mean, with the white progressives, they really got to get off their soapbox with the purity test, and you got to be, like, you know what I'm saying, realistic about it. And for the record, Miss Crockett never took any APAC money, but they was out there saying that she did, and then was disproven about that.
That's the thing that I want to say about what I think about white progressives is, like you just said, they want everything, right? They, like you said, it's a purity test. They don't want it. They don't want anything on you, right? Anything to do with Israel, anything to do with the suffering of people and all this thing and on and on and on. That's what they used to hit Obama about. And my thing about that is, as I sit back and I look at it and I contemplate how I'm going to say it, I look at it like this. You expecting them to be perfect, right? You expecting them to live in a perfect world and be perfect and not do what everybody else do. And you also want to infiltrate the Democratic Party. And the way I look at that is like, okay, you got to crawl before you walk. Like, you want Hakeem Jeffries out. You want Chuck Schumer out. You want all these guys out. But the problem is that the machine still favors the veterans. It's just like rookies trying to come in and take the veteran spot on a football team, basketball team, or baseball team. It ain't gonna happen overnight. You actually got to get the will of the people, and black people speak. So you have to understand that when we say something, we want to be in on that conversation. We're not just going to support you strictly based on that fact. And you had one of those white progressive liberals here, which what was her name? Kat, the young lady, the young girl, right? 20-something.
Yeah, Kat, I'm gonna butcher her last name. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but that's the whole point. What I'm saying, Mark. Yes, maybe in a few years she'll be ready, but right now she's not ready to do policy. She doesn't understand how that works and diplomacy and all that stuff. She's just out there. Yes, she's helping, right, with ICE and that whole deal that goes along with that. But, you know, it's other levels to politics than that. And I think sometimes these white liberal progressives, they get away from that.
Yes, I think so too. Because I was going to say too real quickly, with Kat, and she did do pretty well. I mean, like, like clearly she didn't win, but she didn't lose by a whole lot. And yes, she I mean, she's young and she really, you know what I'm saying, want to do this and be in that game. She's going to come back again and come back stronger and stuff. Because I like a lot of stuff that she was saying.
Right,
but,
I do too.
Yeah, I mean, but like you said, sometimes you're not ready and all that. But and the thing about like with politics is a lot of nuance. It's a lot of compromise. It's a lot of making deals because, like, you know what I'm saying? Because I heard like a lot of them, like, you know what I'm saying, criticize their very favorite progressive, which was AOC.
Right.
They didn't criticize her a couple times because of her votes on certain issues and stuff regarding the funding to like, you know, Israel and stuff, because, you know, she didn't vote straight up no. She only voted present on like defensive funding and all that kind of stuff, and they was trying to come in. It's like, you can't be perfect all the time. I mean, politics ain't about perfection and stuff. You got to make compromise. You got to make some tough decisions and stuff.
Right.
You get, I mean, that's just the way it goes until you get your opportunity to get up in there, and they can infiltrate this Democratic Party, because I want to see this broken down.
Yes.
I'm not. And yes. I'm not a Hakeem Jeffries, Apex Shakur or whatever with his hands and doing all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just, and like, I wasn't always against them. I mean, at first I was thinking like, I mean, it's good to see a brother, okay, New York, okay, he listens to rap music, cool. I like all that. But it's just,
I think he got his good points, but I also think he has his bad points. And the reason for that is he's being groomed by Chuck Schumer. And Chuck Schumer is an old school.
Chuck and Nancy.
Yeah, and they're old school politicians. And I think a lot of that is he respects them a lot because they got him in the game, right? But at some point in time, you got to play with your talent. You can't keep playing with their talent. You can't keep running their playbook. You have to do your own thing. You have to say, okay, they helped me out, but now it's my time to shine. So I got to do my own thing. And you can't keep playing that same playbook. I think that's his problem.
And you got to stand for something. And you got to stand for something. Yeah. And another thing real quickly, because I don't want to run too long, but going back with the white progressives and stuff like that, like Graham Plattner, he's running for senator out there in Maine and stuff.
Right.
He's trying to take over what's her face seat.
Yeah. I forgot her name. What is her name? Susan Collins.
Susan Collins, right? The whole, like, always, she's always worried about something, or she's, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, she definitely needs to go. But and I'm all for Graham Plattner winning that seat, but I want to say this about him real quick, because when those stories came out about his Nazi tattoo that he claims that he didn't know about, you know what I'm saying? Whatever, like, these white progressives was like, quick to his defense on that type of stuff.
They forgave him.
Quick to defend and all that kind of stuff. But like, you know what I'm saying? Crockett taking a trip to like Israel. She went out there to Israel. She took them trips. See. I mean, come on, man. You can't have it both ways like that.
Yeah.
You can't sit there and protect a Graham Plattner and stuff, because it's like, whether he like knew that was a Nazi symbol, or then, I don't know that for sure, but it's very like, it's very odd to say the least.
Well, I saw, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I saw his interview with Jen Psaki on MS Now, and she asked him about that, and he said he didn't realize that that's what it was. He said it was a symbol for something. I forgot what it was. It had something to do with hammers or something, whatever it was.
Right.
Because, he's always out. He's chopping wood. He's doing what manly men, they say, are supposed to be doing.
And I can buy that. And like, he's a military veteran and all that stuff. I can buy that.
Right. He speaks well. He's well-spoken, and I like what he was saying because it made sense. But like you said, I don't like the fact that they held Crockett to a higher standard than they held him to. You right. And that's some of my problems.
And they also didn't mention, because, Reddit posts, which is, for me personally, I don't go back and look at people's social media that they did 10 or 15 years ago, because people put a lot of stuff on. I put stuff on social media that, I wouldn't be, supportive of, right now today. That's just the way it goes, but, they said nothing about the stuff that he said about, black people on social media, which is, all black people don't tip.
Right.
And all that kind of stuff. So, they just, quietly swept that underneath the rug.
Right.
But, that's also, a issue, too. But out there in very white Maine that have maybe about 4% black people out there,
right.
that might not be too
That's
much of
right.
an issue,
That's
but nevertheless, he's still a Senate. I mean, I wouldn't want my senator, I wouldn't want any United States senator to be racist.
Right.
That's just me personally.
Right.
I mean, so hopefully he's not that, but that is something that he should be questioned on, at least, like, have a chance to, like, explain himself, what he meant by that, because I can understand, working as a bartender, and, like, yeah, I mean, I get it, like, yeah, he probably did have a couple, like, black people not tip him and stuff like that.
I ain't
a lot of cheap.
I ain't gonna say probably.
I mean, we know.
I ain't gonna say probably. I ain't gonna say probably because I know that it's a lot of black people and ones that have money. Remember,
right.
Scottie Pippen didn't get the name No Tippin' Pippen for nothing. Neither did Jordan or Barkley. So, I mean,
you know what it is, But to make the statement against all black people,
I agree.
You can't do that,
I agree with what you said. I agree with what you said. I agree.
Hey, man, like, I'm sorry, Mr. Platinum. You can, I know you was, trying to get your bartender gig, but yeah, that's what I wanted to, like, go ahead and rant about that and stuff. I mean, like, it's bottom line for me, and I will end with this. It's like, all people have to come together and stuff like that. There's reasons why Malcolm and Martin and Fred Hampton got, like, assassinated at such young ages, because they, at their wisdom at that time, realized, like, like, once you bring all people of all backgrounds and all steps together for one common goal, and that's humanity for everybody, it's a problem for the rest of the people that's trying to make money off of everybody.
Yeah, you're right, Mark, 100%. And I'm going to end it with this. White liberal progressives, we love you, but stay fair. You got to be fair, right? You can't, judge people based on what you think they supposed to be or how they supposed to act. We all in this together, and that's to fight people like Felon 47. So let's just work together and try to build a stronger coalition for the future. Another topic I wanted to move on to, Mark, was something that I saw in the news, and I had to talk to you about it because I was wondering, had you seen this story? The $167 million lottery winner is still committing crimes. And I can't think of his name right now because I don't have it written down in my notes. But this guy apparently is from Indiana, right? I think he won the Indiana lottery. Or was it Kentucky? One of the states. It's either Kentucky or Indiana. And he won.
It might have been Kentucky, but
yeah. And he won $167 million. And yet he was still caught boosting about 12 grand worth of merchandise out of this lady's home. And everybody's like, really? What do you think about that story?
Well, I think it could have been the black man. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I mean,
but he was white, though. He was white, so.
I mean, it's just like a clear case of, like, stupidity. It makes no sense at all. It's like, it's just if you win the lottery for that amount of money, like, even if you, like, get it in one lump sum, or you or whatever, gotta wait a little bit for it, like, you pretty much should be set up for the rest of your life. I mean, ain't no way in the world I'm about to go and, like, do some other stupid stuff. I ain't about to do anything at all. I'm not gonna mess up anything that's gonna, like, jeopardize my freedom or nothing like that. I'm gonna try to be as quiet as I possibly can and stuff. I mean, I always felt this way about, like, if I was to win a lottery, I wouldn't really want to be one of those people to, like, get on the news and have my face all out there for, like, other people to know, like, who I am and who I look like. I would try to be as quiet as possible about it if I could. But, like, I mean, that's just like a clear case of, like, this guy's a professional criminal, and, like, he just can't help himself.
Yeah,
I guess.
Well, that's what
he had mental issues. I don't know.
Well, that's what I got from the story, is that he's a habitual criminal, right? He continues to do the same thing over and over again. And then, like you said, I think he should take some of that money and get the help that he needs, because apparently he's not getting enough. if he's continuing to do this, even though he doesn't have to do it. That's the thing that kills me.
Well, we know this. Well, we know this for sure. That I mean, he definitely should be able to afford like the best criminal defense.
That's what I said.
I mean, so
that's what I said.
He might just get out to like rob again.
That's what I said when I talked to someone the other day. I said, hey, he's got enough money to get a good criminal defense lawyer. So I mean, what? Like really? So it's just one of those things to me where I found that very funny and amusing that this guy has won the lottery. And I mean, you're a man who has been committing crimes your whole life, stealing, petty theft or whatever the case. And then you're still doing this even after you won $167 million. The irony in that.
Because he didn't, because he won it, he wanted to take it. I mean, he would have rather, I guess it had been more like, more like accomplished for him to like, steal that much instead of like just being lucky. I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, we, like I said, man, we out here like, so much have changed in the last 20 and 40 years, this society, that what we think about how people mind, brains are wired and how they have work. I don't know if it's in the water. I don't know if you, because of the rise of the damn internet or whatever the case is, but that's like the dumbest thing I ever heard.
Yeah, it's one of those situations. To me, it is hilarious. When I saw this story, I said, we got to talk about it on the Grown Men podcast because it's one of those unbelievable stories. I mean, you will never see this anywhere else. I don't think this would ever happen in history, not that I've known of, that someone who actually wins the lottery goes out and commits crimes of theft when you have all the money that you need. So
right, and he said he stole or tried to steal
$12,000 worth of stuff out of a lady's house, watches, jewelry, and things of that nature. That stuff was worth $12,000, and you have $167 million.
Right, and like had he been successful, stealing that stuff, and I guess he would try to sell it. I mean, he would have got like about $5,000 total from all that stuff, or even less than that. I mean, it's just beyond ridiculous and stuff. I mean, it really is. It really is. And so I hope she sues him.
Yeah,
get him in silver court.
Yeah, get him in
some of that. Get some of that like 180-something million towards her way, something like that. Pain and suffering, all of it.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where it was a funny story and I just wanted to talk about it because I thought it was ridiculous that someone would still be doing that. But hey, this is America and this is what we have. Another topic I want to talk about, Mark, is one of these situations, the last topic, and that is what recently happened in the NBA. And this was a big story, of course. It was all over the internet. The Bulls released Jaden Ivey. They waived him for his social media BTQ community. LGBTQ community. And the things that he was saying and his Christian values and everything that went along with that. Why did they have to have NBA have to have a Pride Month and all that stuff that went along with that? What do you think about that, Mark? Because to me, it leads to a bigger discussion of why do we have to say everything that we think? So in other words, why are we saying the quiet part loud and the loud part quiet? So why do we continue to stick our foot in our mouth, so to speak?
Well, for me, first off, I think it's like some kind of nuance to that because what like many people would sit there probably would argue is First Amendment right, like the freedom of speech. You have the freedom to say what you want to say and all that kind of stuff, and you shouldn't get consequences. But we do understand, when you are employed by someone and stuff like that. If you work at Target or something like that, you just can't just walk out onto the sales floor and just just use profanity and things like that,
and expect to hold your job.
And expect to hold your job because he's like, well, it's freedom of speech. There's also levels of responsibility. Freedom of speech was always to be right, to like have the right to like, you know what I'm saying, criticize like, you know, government and leadership and like speak out against injustices and stuff like that. I mean, because I think a lot of people like, you know, get that kind of like, you know what I'm saying, mixed in with freedom of speech and say what you want to say. I mean, you're not going to walk into church and just like, oh, well, I'm going to say F this and F that and, you know what I'm saying, not expect consequences because the First Amendment right or like anywhere else. And you know what I mean, with this guy, and I will note too that like, you know, some right-wing MAGA folks tried to run with this and, you know, try to like, you know, run to his defense and stuff because of the whole like, you know, LGBTQ, TQ community and all that kind of stuff. But that's not what it was really about. Now, as we spoke about earlier, this guy was like, I guess he found Jesus or something like that in the past few years. I don't know his whole history or background, but from what I understand and read is that he's a very heavy Christian religious guy. Like he's all about Christ and God and Jesus. And, I mean, and I'm not trying to be like no facetious or anything like that. I mean, if you believe in Christ, you believe in Christ, and that's a beautiful thing. I'm not knocking that, but he seems to like, you know, kind of come off, and he's a very young man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So he still got a lot of learning and growing to do, but I guess he had some kind of revelation, and now he felt the need to like express that, you know what I'm saying, highly. Like he's been in the league since 2022, 2020, something like that. He's been in the league for like at least about 4 or 5 seasons.
Right.
And like ever since he's been in the league has always done something to honor Pride Month.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The gay community.
Right.
Along with that, they done stuff for the Hispanic community. They do stuff for Black History Month. They do stuff for all kind of events because the league is about making everything inclusive. Why? Because they want more people to come to the games, to support the games, to watch the games, and all of that kind of stuff. When St. Patrick's Day is around, they have guys running out there with the green jerseys and all that kind of stuff on, don't they? I'm like, it's like, come on, bro. It's like, what are you talking about? What are you even talking about? Like, if you got a problem with gay people, that's fine. You have the right to. But I mean, also you got to understand, like, you know, your role and responsibility being a part of it and like, you know, organization. And that's another thing. If he's so highly Christian and all that kind of stuff, I mean, then like, you know, it'd be questionable, like the things that like, you know, he choose to like, you know, be a part of. I mean, you know, if you're gonna go to church and like follow your Bible, maybe playing professional sports shouldn't be the thing for you. But aside from that, like, I mean, the thing that he really got in trouble for was his views on the Catholic religion. Like he was saying that was wrong, and he was criticizing that very, very heavily. And you know, we know that the new Pope is from Chicago,
right?
So that was pretty much the bigger reason why he got let go, because he was like, you know, giving views that like, you know, people haven't heard since JFK was president.
Right.
So it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, like, although you feel some kind of way about some kind of thing, some things don't have to be platformed and to be shouting out loud about it. I mean, he was like criticizing other players like Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Talking about Stephen Curry is not like a true Christian. And I mean, and again, like, I don't think any of us have that right or place to say who's Christian and who's not Christian. That is in the eyes of the beholder. That's for the all powerful upstairs up there in heaven, if there is a heaven.
Well,
if you believe in that or not, or you know, whatever the case, you don't have the right to criticize someone on that.
Well, here is my opinion, Mark, and I've always said this, and I say it to anybody that I speak to. None of us are Christians. None of us. If you go by what is taught and what Christ was about, none of us do these things. As you said earlier about washing feet and going into dens with lepers and all these different things that Christ did. Nobody does that. I don't see anybody doing it. So we're not Christians. We are wannabe Christians. We're not worthy to be Christians because we are people who will step on other people to get to the top. And the thing about these religious people that always get me, they find religion. Where did you find it at? In that hotel sleeping with that woman that wasn't your wife or the one that you wasn't married to? Where did you find your religion? At that strip club putting money down that girl's G-string? Where did you find your religion at? When something that was an accident that could have killed you like Archie Bunker, and then all of a sudden you decide that you're a Christian? Forget about all the racist things that you do or all these other things under the sun that Christ would frown upon, and yet you have the nerve to call yourself a Christian? It's the hypocrisy that gets me. And it's not just Jaden Ivey. I'm not going in on him. I'm talking about society as a whole when it comes to religion. We always try to hold ourselves high, and my beliefs this and my core beliefs that. Then you should be doing that, as you said early. Practice what you preach. If you are a religious fanatic, go to the church, become a minister, become a pastor, and do the right things for the people and serve the people in the communities as you should be doing. Not dribbling a basketball, not running a football, not hitting a baseball. That's why I get sick and tired of it every time I see them guys and they're crossing their chests after they hit home runs with the cross. Or they're looking up to God and throwing their hands up to God and saying, oh, thank God that I made this shot. Instead of thanking God that you are alive and allowed to make a living doing this, because most of us aren't that lucky. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, and I will also say this too, it's like there's two things that Jesus said in the Bible that, like, you know what I'm saying, most people don't do. And these pretty much the only two things that you really need to do if you want to follow Christianity or any kind of religion and stuff. I mean, Jesus said to love God and to love your neighbor, love thy neighbor the way I would love you.
Right.
Not the way you would love yourself, because, right. I mean, some people don't love themselves or some people do it, but the way that Jesus would love you.
Exactly.
Those pretty much the two main things that you got to do, and most of us can't do it.
Nope. We can't.
Most of us choose not to do it, don't want to do that stuff. You're not going to sit there and love your neighbor the way Jesus would love you, and that goes back to the washing the feet. That goes back to, like, you know what I'm saying, taking your shirt off and giving it to somebody because they don't have a shirt.
Exactly.
Taking care of somebody that's in need. Most of us, like, we drive past and see homeless people, we shake our head and keep going. Or the homeless guy comes to the car and, like, ask for $1. We roll up the window on them, or whatever the case is. We walk over these people.
Right.
I mean, as a society, we don't care about the less fortunate.
Right.
We go, oh, that's a shame, thoughts and prayers, and we keep it moving.
Yeah.
That's just the whole reality of it. And this kid, chances are, like, he's probably gonna get picked up by like another team down the road. I mean, if he's like, you know what I'm saying, signed, because he was a pretty high draft pick.
Yeah, but I don't know though, Mark.
And he's going to get his $10 million. Well,
I don't know.
He's going to get his $10 million. He's going to get that.
He's going to get that, but I don't know. This is his second or third team, man, and the Bulls took a chance on him because he had a big knee injury. So he actually only played 4 games for the Bulls. The Bulls got him back. I believe it was part of that, what do I want to say, that Kobe White deal? I think it might have been part of that Kobe White deal where he came. I think he might be right. He came from Detroit in some kind of way that packaged that up. But whatever the case, my thing about it is I don't know if he'll get another shot in the NBA. We'll see. But it's kind of hard, man, because he has a history. He has a history of saying these things. Now, as I said, offline, his mom is a coach, a head coach of the women's basketball team over there in Notre Dame. So it's one of those things, man, where maybe she has some pull and he'll get a job, but I don't know. It might be hard for him to come back from this unless he makes an apology and realize, like, hey, I misspoke, because that's what a lot of us do. And I'm not just being tough on this kid. A lot of us speak when we should not speak. I got a lot of things that I feel about a lot of things. And I don't speak them in public because that's not the way it should do it. Because let's face it, we all have these hang-ups or whatever little things we have that we don't like. But for the most part, you should keep those things to yourself. But when you some kind of celebrity that has a higher platform, you have to watch what you say.
Well, there's a certain time and place for everything. I mean, there's a certain like platform for like, you know what I'm saying, certain things or whatever and all that kind of stuff. I will say real quickly, I mean, well, by him being like, you know what I'm saying, released by the boards and all this, maybe like he can look at it as divine intervention. Maybe this is God telling them like, yeah, you shouldn't be in the NBA. Take that $10 million and like, you know what I'm saying, do some godly things with that money.
Well,
take that money and give it. You know what I'm saying? You know, give it to people who's like less fortunate and all that kind of stuff, and like, you know what I'm saying, fully like, you know what I'm saying, follow the church or like become part of Peace Corps or something like that or whatever the case is. But like going back into what you were saying and what people like, you know what I'm saying, kind of, you know, speak before thinking and stuff. I mean, it's like we talked about like a while ago with these like, you know, black celebrities and everybody, like they like will hear something and just like, you know, just like run with some stuff and just put some stuff out there, not knowing the damage, not knowing the destructiveness that it can cause to like, you know, whole families, whole communities, you know what I'm saying, whole states. It's like, you know, that's the whole thing when you vote, you know what I'm saying, voting in these elections and you electing like, you know what I'm saying, somebody as president and then not realizing the consequences of for like, you know what I'm saying, like a nationwide pandemic breaking loose or like, you know, losing healthcare or causing wars and things like that. It's like, you know, or we get caught, like, you know what I'm saying stuff, because there's like plenty of people who post things online and stuff, and then like once they supervise or a job get wind of that, oh, they out the door.
Right.
Because you up there like not thinking about consequences. You're not thinking about how this comment could affect other people. I mean, and that's why social media can become very, very dangerous for like a lot of folks out there. And so when you share your, you know, thoughts about things and stuff, you putting out there for the whole wide world to see and listen to.
Right.
I mean, it can become very problematic and very consequential.
Yeah, because the internet is not a personal diary. If you're writing things on the internet, everybody is seeing this. This is not a personal diary. But a lot of people treat it as such. As Felon 47 does it all the time on Truth Social. Nobody goes like he goes. He goes whole paragraphs long of gibberish. And a lot of people do that. Even if you believe in these things, don't post it online. Don't post it online. Tell that to yourself over and over again. Because once you do that, because like I said, I'm passionate about a lot of stuff. But I'm just not going to say it online so a whole lot of people can question why he said that or for what reason. Because it's not that I'm afraid of the consequences. It's the point that these are my personal thoughts. And they should not be shared. And a lot of people don't get that. That's why social media gets a lot of people in trouble.
Yeah, because once it's out there, it's out there. I mean, I done heard, like, you know what I'm saying, numerous of times that people lost their job or lost their position, lost their spot for stuff that they posted, you know, 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
I mean, it's like, again, like, I mean, there's like responsibilities to everything. I mean, when you engaging online and, you know, you getting on these platforms and stuff, I mean, like, you know, come correct about the things you say. And also, to be fair, there are like also certain things that people would, like, you know what I'm saying, say or post and it gets taken out of contact or somebody feel like the wrong way about something or they get, like, you know what I'm saying, wrongfully terminated about stuff. That stuff happens too. But like in this case with this guy and stuff, with all his like, you know, righteousness, and like I said, he's a young man. He still have a lot to learn. And that's the whole thing, like, you know, sometimes we hear something, once again, you hear something and just want to just run with it and feel that you have this, like, you know, a righteousness about you and all this kind of stuff, that you better than somebody. And that's the biggest problem I always have with Christianity, with so-called Christians. And I mean, just like you said, the whole, like, you know what I'm saying, hypocrisy of it.
Yeah. And,
like, you know, how you feel the need to, like, sit there, like, you know, criticize other people and make it like you so much above it. That's not being a true Christian at all.
No, it's at all. No. And I have personally experienced that kind of treatment before. So I know how that would make a person feel. And that's why it made me not go back to the church, and then I seen some of the things, the mechanisms that go on behind the scenes, talking about people behind their back, what sister such and such did, or what the deacon did. I mean, that's not what we're supposed to be there for. We're supposed to be there to get the word and interpret the word. And that's what the pastor is doing. That's what the reverend is doing. They're giving you the interpretation of what the word is supposed to be. And where we're not getting that knowledge, for a person like me, I get turned off. Because I'm like, you already got me sitting here for 2 hours. And what you're saying is meaningless because you're not following what you're saying. In other words, you're not practicing what you're preaching.
But let's also put out that this is not all churches, though.
No.
Not all churches.
It's not all of them.
I mean,
but the problem is, Mark, I ain't mean to cut you off, but I like to quantify that. Yes, it's not all churches, but the problem is, to me, as I've said previous on this podcast, it's just like a physician who loses a patient because of one negligent thing, or a police officer that kills someone that shouldn't have been killed. You don't get second and third chances to redeem yourself with this. You know, once one church is deemed to be bad, then they'll say, hey, here's another church that's bad. Here's another church that's bad. And before you know it, this thing steamrolls. And see, sometimes religions become cults. And that's a whole nother topic. I ain't going to get into that. But these are just some of the topics and things that I be thinking about when it comes to that.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree with that. I completely agree. As I want to put out there, I mean, like, you know, we're not against any religion.
No, I'm not against anybody.
But be true to your religion. If you a Muslim, you know what I mean, if you follow Christ, you know, if you practice you know, any of it and stuff, Buddhism and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if you practice, like, be true to that. Be true to that. Don't force it on people.
Well,
there's nothing wrong with introducing it or introducing ideas and thoughts, but once you become forceful and judgmental, yeah, that's when you lose. That's when you lose a whole lot of people. Like the black church, real quick. Like, yeah, that's how they lost it. Just thinking about the difference between, like, you know what I'm saying, the black churches of the, like, you know what I'm saying, 40s, 50s, and 60s into where we are today, and like how many people that they lost and turned off because they were so judgmental and criticism, especially about sexuality, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, they turn off. I mean, you know, with being like, you know, homophobic, despite that they have like a lot of people in their choir that they knew was gay, but oh man, we gonna let him be in the choir because he sing good.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But you sit there like, you know, judging them, you know, like doing the sermons and all that kind of stuff, or you criticizing, like, you know what I'm saying, like the young folks about, like, you know what I'm saying, how they dress and all that kind of stuff. I'm a believer that, yeah, you should present yourself well, but, you know, once you just start just, like, pointing the finger and, like, judging folks and all that kind of stuff, or about, hey, look, instead of trying, like, you know, get them to understand, like, yeah, why they should, like, you know what I'm saying, present themselves a little bit better in church and turn them off. That's how you lose people from wanting to go to church, just like you just stated, you know what I'm saying, a few moments ago, you know, why you stopped going. So, I mean, it's a lot has to change and stuff. And I mean, I think like the church could be crucial for, like, you know what I'm saying, the black community, you know, once they open the door and like accept all the way that Jesus would do, the way that God would do, accept all, like everybody come in and let me show you a better way, not try to, like, you know what I'm saying, force or shame you into a better way.
Exactly, Mark. You said more than a mouthful right there, because that's exactly my sentiments. That's how I feel. Don't treat people as outcasts. Treat them as they're welcome. They're welcome in. As one young man, I was watching a recent video of your sister's church down south, and they were there and they were welcoming young man in. And one young man came up to testify that, yes, he was down and out. He was distraught. He didn't know what to do with his life. So he came and talked, and the other man talked to him. He said, well, young man, you know, I understand everything you saying. And and he talked to him as an individual. He didn't say, come to the church because the church has all the answers. No, he just talked to him and said, this is where I'll be if you ever want to talk again. And the young man showed up, and they brought the two young men that showed up. Now, these young men could have been out committing crimes. Who knows the things they could have been doing? But the church helped them. They caught them, and they saved them. The church does a lot of good. But the problem is sometimes the bad churches turn people off. And that's what happens. And then also when people come out and make statements like, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not picking on Jaden Ivey because he's not the only one. But when you get politicians and people coming on TV and they're saying these different things that you know are not true, that's what turns you off. Like the woman got up there with Trump recently and was saying how he was like Jesus. Jesus was lied on. Jesus was persecuted and all these things. And she compared Felon 47 to Jesus Christ. Are you kidding me?
That was that crazy Paula.
Paula, whatever her name is. He is the exact opposite of what Jesus is in all forms. The exact opposite. So that's the thing that gets people mad and heated with religion. As I said, I love God and I love Jesus, but I don't love religion because religion has been translated for years and years, centuries and centuries. It's been watered down to fit the narrative of some of these people who are trying to push an agenda. That's what they do.
That's the key part right there, what you just said, fit the narrative. And that's what people have done for centuries on end, is to like manipulate and to fit their narrative, just like they used to believe back in the day, back in the Roman times and stuff, that there was God and God, put the king in place and stuff, like, all the people should like listen to the king. Same thing like we had I spoke about like a few weeks ago and stuff when I was talking about like the old slavery Bibles and stuff, what they used to teach in there and stuff, like, obey your master like God. I mean, because that's, it's God, then it's your master, and then like you gotta obey him and be happy being a slave, and when you die, you'll be a slave in heaven, but you'll have gold in the streets or something like that. I mean, but that's the whole thing about it. They sit there and manipulate, and they use religion against people to make them, go one way or another, and it's very unfortunate and disheartening, and it sets a bad reputation, and like other churches need to call out churches and stuff for doing that. Same way that good police should call out the bad police. Mm-hmm. You got to call them out. You can't just they part of the blue code or whatever, the blue club. Yeah. Saying they can't just we part of the church, so we're not going to call out others. No, because these are heathens.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. These are heathens. When they sit there and preach that falsity and all that kind of stuff, they need to be called out and they need to be put on freshly and put on blast. And people need to, seek the truth.
Yeah, it's one of those situations, Mark, that we're going to continue to talk about Monday. And look, we here at the Grown Men Podcast, I'm speaking for myself and my brother Mark, we wish nothing but good things for Jaden Ivey, because I don't want to feel like we singling him out, because there are a lot of people who say things that they shouldn't say publicly.
True.
Well,
I agree.
Well, folks, it appears our time is up. Mark, as usual, great to have you back on the Grown Men Podcast remotely. Of course, in the future, we're going to be doing video. We're going to get back into that, people. We haven't went away from it. We're just trying to figure out the technicals, the way we're going to do it. But, Mark, I'm glad that you came back to share your thoughts about some of the topics that we're going on today.
It's most definitely, and it is a process. I mean, we're trying to create this platform, and we want people to visit WeRazNation.com. We also want people on YouTube to hit the like buttons and things like that, to put this content out there. To feel free to drop comments and everything like that. But it's a process, and we're gonna keep it going because people need to know what they need to know, or I should say, I mean, we want to, put this commentary out there, this grown man talk, and hopefully it can have a positive impact on some folks.
Well, there it is right there. Mark said more than a mouthful. Until next time, folks, I am your host, BAN, and we will talk to you soon.
Where the grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it, coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax, close your mouth and listen. We bout to hit you with this knowledge that you've been missing. Listen closely to the Grown Men Podcast. We Rise Nation is the station with the gift of gab. We dropping knowledge on these topics that you wanna hear. We on point with it, get the picture loud.